We're live! Welcome to another unauthorized and new treasure hunt in the sharky waters around the Gatsby Islands with Gatsby Deep Diving Queen Ray!
Other way.
And her pirates, Paul the Navigator.
Hello.
And Uda the Pirate Scribe. Today we're going to do add a newsletter sign up form to poly.dev with form validation using yup.
Yes. Yep.
And Paul is super excited about getting a newsletter sign up to his blog.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
Tell us a little bit more about what's happening here. Why are you now finally getting a newsletter form on your website?
So we had a discussion last week that if something in my life didn't quite plan out the way I hoped it would, then I had to put a newsletter on a sign-up form on my site, and that thing didn't work out. So I'm putting a newsletter sign-up form on my site, but it's not going to be to my email capturing area. It's going to be to yours. So users or visitors to my blog will actually be signing up to your newsletter because I don't have one or want one. So we just...
So this is the Queen forcing Paul's hand, so he's getting a newsletter sign up on his site that will send the emails to my ConvertKit, and I will be in charge of letting everybody know when Paul has a new blog post.
Yeah, I mean, that saves me a job, to be honest, doesn't it? So
it does.
It's kind of good in a way. I don't have to worry about that.
Just had to be a little firm here with the pirate princess, who is not close to being in bed tonight because it's summer. So we'll just have to make do with the crazy pirate princess.
It will work.
How do you want to start? Should we start with the function?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to start by showing what we'll eventually build? We sort of did that last week. That's kind of a new thing, isn't it? We don't have to. But
it was more because then people maybe couldn't imagine what it is, but I think people can imagine what a newsletter sign up form is.
Yeah, it's not exactly groundbreaking, is it?
It's not exactly groundbreaking.
This week we're talking about a new thing called forms.
And it's totally, magnificent. You can leave your emails and then the Queen will start pestering you with emails.
And if you're not sure what emails are, they're like electronic letters that you send on the internet.
Like electronic smoke signals.
Yeah, it's pretty top level stuff this week.
Top level stuff. Anyway, I think it's going to be good. It's something a lot of people need, and a lot of people want it to make it more their blog. So I use ConvertKit for my blog and for like all kinds of things, and then I use something called UserList for POW. And with ConvertKit, there are some React components or a React library that you can download and use directly in your React code and Gatsby's React. But then it has to look like ConvertKit forms. But if you make your own Gatsby function and then you make your own form and your own kind of flow and user interface, then you can make it your own a lot more than you can when you're just using those kind of inline forms or whatever that you can get straight from ConvertKit. So that is why we are doing this the Gatsby Functions way. So are we ready?
Yeah. So have you got my blog and have you created a branch?
I have not created a branch. Why is it so slow? Good. Hit checkout. Newsletter, and we need a branch. I do this every time. Like when will I learn? There we are.
Good. And we need two dependencies. One is Axios and the second is Yup. And Yup is a form validation library, and we'll go through how to use it. Cool. So while that's happening, let's start with the function. So in source, we need an API directory. And in API, we're going to have a new JavaScript file called newsletter. And
I don't know what is happening. The computer is doing things. There we go. I have a file.
Cool. Okay. So I guess first thing is const axios equals require axios, because we'll need that if it's finished installing.
I think so. I'm just gonna. We don't need to see it build all the time. And I cannot spell. I spell even worse than usual. This is going to be a fun stream. And then we need to export. How is this again? I always.
So this will be export default. It's going to be an async function called. You need to type function because it's not yet, and it will be called handler, which will have two params: request and response. Open and close the curlies.
Oh, and we don't. This is not an arrow function. No. I am so used to arrow functions that just like typed itself.
Okay, so what's
I usually just do it res and then hello world just to make sure that everything is set up correctly.
Fine.
So if we go over to our browser, let's just check that this is working before we start putting additional stuff in there. And then we think that's what's breaking it, but no.
Have you started the dev server?
Yeah, it was running.
Oh, right.
There we go. Hello world.
Wow, you are very organized this week.
So organized. And TC says hello. I don't know if you put that on the screen, Ola. I'm just going to do that.
Hello, TC.
And did you put Neil on the screen? And he says he's done this with MailerLite as a side note, and looking forward to see how we do it tonight with another service. That's a cool thing about functions. When you've started, you use like MailerLite, and then maybe you do a ConvertKit, and then after a while, you're like, I can integrate with anything. I got superpowers. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. That was a side note.
Wait, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Swedish bubbly water without alcohol tonight.
Oh, you've gone booze free. Okay, fine.
That's why I'm so energetic.
Okay, good. Let's see how long that lasts then, because I'm about to bore you to tears with my validation stuff. Let's get through this then quickly.
Okay.
To explain what's going to happen from the front end, which we're going to do in a minute, is we will send a key value pair of email on the request body. So we should expect to receive that. So the first thing we can do before the response is destructure email from request.body, because we know that we will be sending that up in a minute.
Okay.
And when we can write an if statement.
If email? I'm just guessing here. Can you see what I'm doing?
Was that me or was that you? You disappeared.
I don't know. You just stopped saying things. We lost each other for a while. But I did an if email and then an else.
Yeah, except it would be if not email and then an else.
Did you update your emojis set yet?
No. I have taken a full-time machine backup. I have cleaned up so that I now have space left on my machine. So sometime in the next weeks, I will be upgrading my whole operating system and I will get the new emojis, but not yet.
Good. Okay. That if statement should be if not email and then else. If not email, you want to send an error? Yep. And I noticed in your Tuesday stream, you did a status of 400.
Yeah, 400 something means that the client has done an error and not sending the required data is a client error.
Client error. Fine. So we'll do res.status 400 and then .json. And we're going to send a... Joseph. Who's Joseph?
I don't know. Now it looks like I've been drinking. There we go. Yes, message.
And it will send a message, and this, I guess, would then be no email address submitted.
Or just email address. Email required is what I like to.
Okay, fine. You do you. So this will be the error response code if, for some reason, the request body doesn't have or doesn't receive a email object key. So if it does, we're now into the else, and so this is where we're going to actually try and post the email to ConvertKit. So did you write a try catch?
Nope.
No, you didn't. Okay, so we need a try catch. Cool. And in the let's do the catch with the error first, and just send a res.status 500, because this will be a server error, and this will be a message that is equal to error.message. So we'll just take the message straight from the error that's caught, that is the param of the catch. And then in the try, this is if everything succeeds and everything works as expected, we should be able to do await.
Await, not await. Access.
Axios.post. Yeah. And then how are we going to handle this bit then? Because there's a bit of copying and pasting. I'm sure you don't want me to read out a URL, do you? It'd be like,
I do, because I can't remember. No, I'll see if I can find it. So.
I mean, I can read it out if you want.
We all know that I will never be able to spell that on stream. Let's see if I can find it though. Here it is. So this is a long. I usually do an endpoint above so that we can see it on stream. So if we do endpoint. This should be the endpoint. So how did we figure out that this was the endpoint for people who...
What, you asking me? Because when I asked you, you were like, it's in Queen Ray codes. I was like, oh, okay, fine.
Okay, so
I'm assuming
for
it's
people,
on the ConvertKit docs.
Yeah, so in the ConvertKit docs, in the docs for the service that you decide to integrate with, you just have to go looking. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard to figure out what the URLs or the endpoints should be. Somebody is now making a present behind me. Det lager litt for mye lyd, Dylan.
It's for me!
Kan du gå på kjøkkenet og gjøre det? Ja,
Is it gift for me?
Gå på kjøkkenet. I just told her to go to the kitchen, so hopefully we will hear less. Yeah, so you go to the documentation and you just have to look through and see what you find there. And different API or different service providers have, better or worse APIs depending on what you like. I feel like the API for ConvertKit is a little cumbersome because you need to sign people up through a form ID. You have some other options, but usually through a form ID if you want double opt-in. And I would have thought that you would send the form ID in kind of as a part of your, the data that you send in, but it's a part of the URL, but it's not the end part, which is normal. It's like in the middle there. So you have to do some string, what's it called? That string.
Template literal.
Yeah. To get the correct endpoint. So this is a little bit different, not as common, it seems a little, but you just have to look at the service, figure out what they want, and then confirm to what they want. Otherwise, you can't speak to them, right?
Yeah. And I suppose it's worth pointing out as well here, where it says process.env.ck_form_ID, that is a environment variable that's already been set up in the .env files in this repo. Obviously, it's a little bit tricky to show this on stream because we'll reveal the keys. But if you do look on my GitHub repository for poly.dev 2019, which is this repo, there is an env.example file which will show what they're called. But I mean, you get the idea. It's a process environment. It's an environment variable saved. Okay, so this first param is the URL. The second param is the options object, which has API_key.
Yeah, and also the email, right?
Yep. Just do it in your order, fine.
Yeah. And then you have that on process and then CK_API_key. So this is another interesting thing with the ConvertKit API is that instead of setting the API key as part of kind of like often you do an authorization header of some kind. That's a way to authenticate. And with the ConvertKit API, you just send it in as part of the data that you send in. So you send in the email and then you send in the API key as kind of like a same level type data.
Quick spelling check on process.env. And then just to be clear, the email, you can do the shorthand as Benedict has done there, or you could do email:\email, and that refers to the destructured value above where we did const equals email request.body. So that's basically going to hit the URL with the form ID, which is saved as an environment variable, and pass through the email address, which it will receive on the body request. And it also passes the API key, which are the two things we need to get ConvertKit working. If all is successful, so underneath the Axios post, we're going to need to send a 200 back to the client because it's going to be assumed that it was successful. And that would be .json and then a message. And then I just put, you're all signed up. Cheers.
Very you. You're all. Did you have it?
I had dash and then cheers with an exclamation mark with a capital C and a space. And I suppose you could put an emoji in there. It doesn't really matter.
Do emojis. We know my computer is not good.
You could put a grey square in there if you're on Benedict's machine.
You're all signed up. Cheers.
So do you want to do some funky stuff with pour and actually send that email through on the request body, or
yeah?
What do you want to do?
Let's try that. So the next step now, this function should be done and ready. And the next step then in our project would be to create the front end, like what is going to happen on our site. But I like to then test my functions using something called paw, which is an HTTP client. You could also use Postman, and on Tuesday streams, Inessa recommended Insomnia. Is that correct? So there are different clients you could use. I just really like the paw logo way back when and ended up sticking with it. So these are some old. What is this? Here we have the one. So we try then localhost, API, newsletter. We're going to send in my email. And I tried this earlier today. And then obviously we got a 404 page because we hadn't created this endpoint yet. So let's see if it works now. And then it says email is required. Didn't I put email in here?
No. I'm not sure I can help because I cannot read your screen.
It's not an email.
It's not an email though, but queen at Ray codes. But I don't think that should have worked. That should have, because this is our 404 bad request. But Inessa is saying yes, Insomnia. So there is something wrong. Let's see if we can figure it out. Email. Did I spell email correctly? And it should be on the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my paw. I can't like zoom in on my paw, so it's hard to be. I have it on the body, Jason. Let's console log our body then. That's how I do it.
Mm-hmm. I would do the same. I mean, that looks fine.
But it says the body is empty. Did I do something wrong with my paw body? Oh, it's because it's a get, not a post. I do this all the time. I'm trying to do a get request, and get requests do not have bodies. So we need to do post requests. And then we got a request failed with status code 401. Email, and that request is then coming from our Axios post. So let's console log our error. This is the reason.
Or gonna have that? Oh, no, I suppose that doesn't matter, does it?
Authorization failed. API key not present is what it's saying. So I probably wrote something wrong here. I'm going to take the screen. I'm going to take us off screen so I can look at the secrets without having any problems.
Where did you add the vars to? env.development or env.production or both?
env.development.
That should be fine. We are in development.
Yeah. There it says the API key. The API key is correct. I'm going to look at...
since you're off screen, do you want to just put a log in the newsletter for process.m.ck?
Yeah, no, I see that it's sent. I see that it's sent to... Oh, it's API underscore. I'm just going to clear this so that you don't see any secrets. And we're going to be back on screen.
API underscore key, is that what you're going to say?
Yes, I did it. Snake case.
I'm just going to give you all a little update here from the tower.
Yeah. Oh, Lillian is up there now.
Yeah, the pirate princess is building a computer up here. She just told me. She just told me.
Is she building a cardboard computer?
It looks like it, but who knows what she's going to have inside, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's going to be interesting.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.
So it's API key, and then let's try again.
Yeah, that looks better.
And then Neil is saying, good catch with the get versus post. You don't know how many times I've spent like a long time on that one. So I'm happy that I finally managed to like remember that fairly quickly. You're all signed up. Woo!
I'm gonna have to trust you because I cannot see anything. It's just all I can see is a grey sidebar with a white area. Because I'm on my super professional 13-inch MacBook.
Exactly. Well, it's not big, but now we know that the function works. So let's do a little bit of a commit because we know that it's working now, and then we can go on to the front end.
Now this might trip you up because I have got conventional commits in, so you are going to have to do. You are going to have to do
feature
a format
newsletter endpoint. Paul is very proper.
Look at that. Runs prettier as well.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I guess let's talk about this while it's happening because that might take a while. So I put this stuff in on all repos that I work on someone else with. And the reason being is everybody has different editor settings. And so what could happen is someone might work on your repo, create a PR, and what you'll be seeing in the diff might just be changes in spacing or colons or semicolons. And that just makes a PR really difficult to actually see where the changes occurred. So by running, I use a Husky hook for pre-commit that runs a prettier command, which formats everything. And then just to be extra super cool, I've also got a commit message, which forces you to either define it as a feature or a chore. And that's for the same reasons. If you're looking at a bunch of PRs on your open source repo, it's easier to find the more important ones if they've got commit messages that start with feature or chore or bug or whatever, rather than just like YOLO commit messages from people that you can't identify what the hell it was.
YOLO? I've never, ever had a commit message named YOLO.
That's a lie. We know that's a lie.
Sorry, I've been going off topic here, but let's just have a look at my
would just put feet YOLO or chore YOLO. You still get it in there, but at least I'd be able to go, oh, it's not important, it's a chore or a tooling.
Let's look at my commits. YOLO update.
Yeah, so that's exactly why I do it. Because I know I'm working with Benedicte and she doesn't play by the rules because she's a renegade.
Oh well.
But you know, this is what happens. You have to work with lots of different people, and I'm open to however anyone else wants to do it, but not on my repo because I put the rules in to stop you from doing it.
Exactly. You're not open to everybody. Oh well, I really enjoy that actually because I find it a little bit tedious and boring setting those things up. So I'm very glad that you do them. Okay, should we go over to the front end, or should we do our tiny break before the front end?
We can have a break because I think the next bit. Well, let's do one thing before the break because I am going to have to natter a little bit about why this is a bit weird. But let's start by just making a new directory in components, and this will be newsletter-form. And I need two files in there. One is index.js, and the second will be newsletter-form.js.
Very proper. Oh, I don't know what is happening. It's like doing things without me. It's hacked. Okay, newsletter form.
So in newsletter-form.js, let's do import React from React.
Yep.
And we will do export const, and it will be newsletter form Pascal cased. Yep, and that is an arrow function with no params. Yep, and if you just return, just return something for now. Perfect. And then in the index.js, we're going to do export. And then it's a named export of newsletter form. So it will be in curlies.
Oh yeah, in the curlies. Oh, from newsletter.
Yeah. /. I
never do these myself like that. Okay.
Yeah. So this is just a preference, but I do this for reasons. When projects grow, I would typically have a directory that would have an index which exports the component as a named function. I would have the actual component file, but typically I would also have in the same directory tests and stories. And so you might commonly see a pattern where people will just do a default export and lump them all into the components directory. But because a project tends to grow and you have more specific and other files relating to individual components, I find it easier to put them in their own directories. But to avoid the import newsletter from newsletter issue, you make the index export the named export as a default, which results in the following.
So just do what Paul says, basically.
Well, but it will come out in the wash. So the next boring bit for you, unfortunately.
So let's add this to the article pages and see that works, and then we can do the actual form content UI after our mini break.
Yeah. Now, this is going to be even more confusing, and I'd apologize, but you see above API, there's a poorly scanlon directory.
Do not explain it.
Okay, it's part of my Gatsby theme, and this is component shadowing. So go into that source article right at the top, import the newsletter, which will be a named import.
From
you got quite angry with it. Do not explain it.
I was like, nobody's interested in that explanation. They will just have to go and look.
Now this is going to be up 4 levels, unfortunately.
Is that correct? No.
One more, and then components,
and then newsletter
form. Yeah, and then somewhere it'd be this there. That's it. And then right at the bottom, I think around line 121.
What was that sound? Yeah.
Line 121, I think.
121 above a divider.
There, underneath the MDX provider, just put newsletter form. Okay, so that should render a newsletter form on every page. Every post page on my blog. Because that source article is a template file. So you should be able to go to posts and then pick any of the posts.
And this is a good one, people. You should read it. Where's the newsletter?
Right at the bottom. This is quite a long
Newsletter!
Is it there? There we go. Fine. So that works.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we've got it rendering, and that will appear on every page because it's a template. So let's have a break because I need to nip to the gents anyway. So
okay, I'll ask. I'll
timing.
answer. I'm gonna turn off your audio for that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So Neil is asking. Sorry, I had to step away. I'm going to be using the tool. Do you use React Hook form? We're not going to use that for this one. I was talking, if you heard something form React-ish, I was saying that ConvertKit does have some, they have like a React library where you can add ConvertKit forms only in the front end, but you get a limited kind of control over the form. So that's why I like to create my forms exactly how I want them and then use a function to send the email into and send that through to ConvertKit. So I think that's what you were hearing. And then Inessa says, could be useful for the upcoming NASA Space App Challenge. Ooh, I didn't know there was a NASA Space Apps Challenge. We will definitely have to look into that because Paul has been, so for this little, Ola can do his whistle for the break where we do our plugs. And if we have guests, interview the guests. So Ola, do our intro for that. And I will plug Paul for Paul.
Welcome to the break. I'll do my plug first then.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna open it up for you so that.
Do you regret not having built a Gatsby function timeship yet? You should. So it's you can sign up here and get emails. There are two young ladies. They're building a timeship back in 1554, and there are several emails. And then the last one that I did now, one of them is coming here with the timeship, and the other one goes to jail back in 1554. So that's where the story is now. So, but it's going to be. There will be more. There will be more. So it's about building Gatsby functions. And yeah.
So they have to build Gatsby functions to get out of trouble, basically.
Yes. They have to build a Gatsby function to get the friend out of jail later and get away. Also, yeah.
And if you had joined my Tuesday streams for the Gatsby Summer Functions, then you've seen me play around a little bit about how we can solve functions in this story. So since Paul was in the bathroom, somebody commented, Paul, that the gents, Inessa commented that could be useful for the upcoming NASA Space App Challenge.
Right.
Did you know about that?
I've sort of heard about it, and I'm gonna leak some information right now. I said I didn't have a plug, but Benedicte, I have sent a link in the private chat for a little demo that I've just finished working on. It's rumored to be published on Smashing Magazine on Monday. But this little project uses Gatsby functions to request the current location of the International Space Station, which is that little black dot. And in the post, I talk about how to use Gatsby functions and also to create that globe, which is interactive if you want to drag it around, Benedicte.
Oh, lovely. Oh, even in the back. Wow, this is looking cool.
Yeah, I am. The tutorial.
Woo-ha! Here in the chat.
So the tutorial will show you how to create the globe, the geometry, the Gatsby function, and how to get the International Space Station lat long and convert them into XYZ coordinates on a 3D space. So yeah,
that is super cool. And then you also need a little sign up form here to your newsletter.
Your newsletter.
Yes, so that people can get more information from you. I mean, this is gold.
If you don't follow me already, Paulie Scanlon on Twitter, I'm sure I will be retweeting this.
But that's not the same as having your own email list or my own email.
Well, it can go on you can put it in the newsletter then next week. Fine.
I will put it in Paul's newsletter next week for those who signed up.
Do I have my own section in your newsletter?
I haven't decided 100% how I will do it, but your people will be segmented in ConvertKit as coming from you because you got your own form, and then I will figure out how much I will send them information about my stuff and your stuff.
Fine.
But we're looking. I'm working on. I think it will be a Queen Ray's Gatsby newsletter will come out maybe 2 times a week, at least 1 time a week, and then in addition you get reminders about this stream and like other live events that might happen. So that's where we're at. And if you want to sign up for Queen Ray's Gatsby newsletter, you can go at the bottom of Paul's posts by the end of the stream and sign up. And if not, you can also go to queenray.codes, which is the kind of landing page for the Gatsby Summer Functions. We're doing these weeks, but if you go all the way to the bottom, you can sign up to be a stowaway, and the folks that are stowaways will also be transitioned into the Queen Ray Gatsby newsletter once the summer is over. So that was my plug. Back to regular scheduling. Do you want to...
Yeah, I would kill that window as well if you've got 3JS running in the background because it's going to make your fan spin.
Okay. Somebody is working in the background.
So I think let's try and build this form. I think let's not worry too much about the style, how it looks for the moment. If there's time, we'll add the styling. But I think let's just focus on the functionality. So in newsletter form, let's just riff this because there's so many ways to do it. Let's start with a form, which will have a input and a button. And I guess button's going to say submit, and input can just close itself.
Now you want to say, yes, I want Queen Ray to notify me of Paul's next blog post.
Jesus, what a button call to action. How's that going to work?
Okay, and then we need an input, which is an email.
Yep.
So type email,
and it will also need a name of email.
Mm-hmm. And you want to give it a label?
No, don't worry about that for them. Well, I mean, you can. We could wrap it in a.
And then, don't you do HTML4?
Yeah. And
then email.
The name, yeah.
And then the value here, email, has to match the name of the input. Then that ties them together.
Right. Now, I don't know whether to. We do need to talk about it. Okay, so if you just save that and show us in the browser, like we should be looking at should be looking at the world's biggest button. Yeah, there it is.
But I mean, look at that button. Who doesn't want me?
And if you type an invalid email
of address, your next, because it's on your blog. So no, notify me of
my
next blog posts. Okay. Yeah, we are looking at it.
So what should happen if you type an invalid email?
No, not me of my next. Sorry, I'm just.
Notify me of mine. Just put submit. What's the matter with you? Yes, I want Queen Ray's newsletter. Fine. Can I carry on?
No. I'm gonna answer a question though.
Fine.
Oh, I see somebody has answered them as well. Hello. Quick question. Are Gatsby functions only a Gatsby cloud feature, or is it possible to host functions on other cloud providers without building separate Express backends? You need to have a backend provider that has support for the way Gatsby does functions. And Netlify already has that, as this answer is saying, that I've used it on Netlify and it works fine, but you do need some additional configuration. There is a plugin by Netlify that you need to enable to use the Gatsby style functions on Netlify.
And the other option is to build an abstracted API. So you could
Nobody understand what abstracted API means, Paul.
So you could build an API and just put that on Gatsby Cloud, and then any of your other websites could communicate with it, so long as you've got cores enabled. So you don't have to host your website on Gatsby Cloud. You could just put the API on Gatsby Cloud.
So you basically make an empty Gatsby project with only an index page that says, hey, this is an API, and then you just put code in the API folder and you get those as your API or your functions.
I have a blog post about it as well, and since you're in my blog, you could you could have a look at that.
Now we just have 15 minutes left. So
there you go. Is that one there?
Which one?
I will say something.
That one there.
So
yeah.
Well,
Petter André Haugseth, Learn with Jason has he has a video on that, how you do the Netlify thing. Yeah. I will post a link to it.
We can't post links in the chat. So
I can.
Oh, you can. Okay, then you can do that.
I will do it.
Yeah. So that's possible. Okay, and then Paul has this article, and we're going to work through Paul's titles at some point in the future so that it's understandable for people who are not Paul. Sorry,
what is not more clear than using Gatsby functions and abstracted API? That's exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, but what problem are you solving, Paul? You should always talk about the problem you're solving, because people aren't looking for the solution when they don't know what the solution is. They're looking to answers to their problems. Back to the code.
That told me. Yes, boss. Right, try and put an invalid email address in that email field.
And it says include an @ in your email address.
So there's absolutely nothing wrong with using native announces in inputs, and Chrome's ones actually are quite nice. But on a commercial project, which is broadly why I make all of the decisions that I make, it will be about 10 seconds before a product manager or a designer says to you, can we style that announce to make it look nicer? And no, you can't, because it's a native browser thing. So the only way to do it is to disable the default browser validation and announces and write your own, which is what we're going to do. And it's going to take ages. So let's see if we get through it. So
let's just do a simple one that showcases it, and then I will copy paste in your whole form.
All right. Well, let's do the first thing to do is to disable the validation by default on the form. So on the form HTML element, you can have no validate, and that's a string no validate, or true, fine. Mm-hmm. And
I guess we can just have it like no validate. We don't have to give it a value.
Yeah, you can do the shorthand one as well.
Yeah.
So now if you check that, you should find that the default messages has gone away in browser.
Yeah, and it tries to post it.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add an onSubmit attribute to the form.
So that is to hijack what was happening there. When I click the button, the browser will try to do the default kind of native way of handling forms, but we want to do something else.
Yeah, so this will be handle submit. Oh, it's also worth pointing out as well, a button by default is type submit. And that's why when it's part of a form, it will call the default form function to submit. So handle on submit, and then we need to pass the event as pass the event, and then event.prevent default. So this will prevent the default from doing its normal thing.
If we try again now, then we should be able to click, but nothing will happen when we click the button because we have just disabled the default behavior.
Yeah, so now we've got to write all of that validation ourselves, but there are a few shortcuts, and I use a validation library called yup. So import star as yup from yup.
Because this is a quite lean one, right? It doesn't add a lot.
It's not overly verbose. It's not overly difficult. You can chain a load of stuff. So the first thing is above that handler, above the constants, we need to create a new schema. So const schema. Do you want me to spell that?
I mean, I still can't spell it. It's just like I've learned how you spell it. I still
Fine. Okay, so it'll be yup.object, which is open close parentheses. The object is like a function, so we're going to be chaining these together.
Yeah. And so you're saying that we want the yup object, and we are now going to
tell it what shape it is. So outside of the parentheses, so remove the curlies.
Okay.
And then after the parentheses will be dot shape.
After dot shape.
Yep, and that will be a function with an options object.
Yep.
And we're going to have a key value pair, which will be email.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be yup.string, which is a function.
Mm-hmm.
And then dot required, which is a function.
Mm-hmm.
And dot email.
So we're saying this needs to be here, and it needs to look like an email.
Yeah, and so yup will handle all of that, and you can chain as many of these on. You can have like dot message, you can add all sorts of things like min, max, all the rest of it. But this schema gives the next thing that we're going to do a set of rules by which to validate against, and the validate function can then tell us whether what it was passed was either true or false from the form, or if it passes the validation rules.
And I just want to add that a lot of people in the beginning, they're like, well, emails aren't that hard to validate. We just like look for an @ we just look for, different, like do regex or something like that. And I can tell you, after I changed my main domain to ray.codes, which are like one of the newer top domains, the .codes, there has been a lot of newsletter forms or email forms where I haven't been allowed to add my email because codes is too long. It like checks that the dot should be like .com or dot. It shouldn't be more than 4 letters. I don't know what they're checking for, but at least it hadn't been working because somebody kind of decided to make their own validation YOLO rules. So this is a place where I will never YOLO. I will either use the internal one, or I will use something like yup as well, so that I don't write my own validation rules, because that's just a pain in the behind.
Yeah. All right. So the thing that it's going to validate against is going to be the value that's been typed into the input form, which we don't yet have. So we're going to need to do the React special method for capturing the change of the input and then storing the value in state. So destructure use state from the import at the top after React.
Well, it comes by itself.
I know, but you've got to get into the habit of typing it.
Okay, email.
And this will be email and set. I would probably go with input value and then set input value, just because there's going to be lots of words that say email and it gets a bit confusing.
Input values, set, and I cannot. We need to wrap this up soon. I'm getting worse and worse on my
okay,
spelling.
and that's going to be use state, and it's going to be an empty string to begin with. And then we want to have a new...
Okay, so we want value, not values, because we're just... Yeah,
and then above the handle submit, we want a new constant, which is going to be handle change.
I just see people are talking in the chat now with Ula because he cannot paste in a link. So what we'll do is that Ula will paste a link underneath the tweet that announced this this YouTube stream, and then you can go and look at that tweet on my account at Ray for the links that we are trying to share. Is that clear, Ula? We'll see if we can do that.
Right.
Okay.
Handle change will also accept an event is the parameter. And then we will set input value, which is the React state object we just created, and we'll pass into that event.target.value.
And target.value. And
then on the input, the HTML input, we need to add an onChange handler, and that will just call handle change. But now this has become a controlled component. We also need to set the value of the input.
I'm not going to go through this. This is
input value.
Pretty common in React, but if anybody would like some documentation on this, let us know in the chat, and I can add that to that tweet thread as well.
Right, so just check that that's working. You should now see the input form update when you type into it. So React will re-render. Yeah, that's fine. Then next up is to handle the validation. So in the handle submit, we want to do a try catch.
Come on, I don't want to write try catch. There we go. Yep.
Right, and in the try, we're going to do, handle submit or handle on submit is going to be an async function. And then we can do const validate
validate
await schema dot validate, which is a function, and we'll pass in options object with a key value pair of email, which is going to be the input value. And now if you do a log underneath validate and just log out validate and then pop back over to the browser.
And if we try, we should see some kind of validation information.
You'll have to click submit because it's not going to validate until you submit, but it should tell you.
It's not. I probably have to sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, did we add the
we add?
Is that doing anything?
No.
Did we add the handle submit from the form?
Yeah, handle on submit. I'm just gonna call it handle submit.
I don't think we'll need to set the button type to submit, but
no, we don't. But let's log something here just to see if we are doing anything.
Submit, yeah. Form. No.
How is this not working suddenly? There, handled submit, and then nothing is happening on the validate.
Nothing's happening on the validate. Okay. So
I'm going to go and check our little cheat sheets to see if you've done it like differently. Schema validate. We're waiting it. It looks the same. And then schema. I think maybe I'm just going to copy paste their schema too in case I've done something wrong there. Maybe we're not setting the input. And they'll change. See, we are up on an hour. I can feel it. I'm getting sloppy. Well, it does handle change, so I don't know what's up.
In the just before the return, just put a console login for the state object input value. Does that actually does it re-render and log that out? I mean, I assume it does because the input's actually updating, but
I mean, you can never know. Yeah.
Okay, so handle change gets called, handle submit gets called. We did event.prevent default, that's fine. And then we move into the try catch, validate await schema. We spelled schema right? It doesn't matter if it's wrong, but as long as it's the same between both.
Should we have gotten like another?
Schema. Well, let's put the catch in. Just put a console log in the error for the catch for the error.
Well, of course, because we're getting an error probably because it's not the correct.
Yeah, so we won't be seeing anything in the validate, will we?
Because the error is email is invalid. So it was working.
Okay.
Yeah, because now so since I was writing if I write in a proper email, then we get this validate. And then if something is wrong with the validation, then we get that error.
Yeah.
I see.
So validate is like a
sorry about that, folks. It's late in the evening.
Right. So yeah, validate is a promise-based thing. That's why the function has to be async, and that's why we await it. If validate is true, or if it does validate, then we can do something with the validated email. And in our case, we want to send that to the API. So create another constant, and this will be a function outside of the handle submit.
Oh.
Yeah, so there'll be like a new function that will just handle submit, handle post to API or something.
Okay. Submit. So we could just submit.
Yeah.
To submit to API. Okay.
Yep.
And that should be an async.
Yep. And now we can either pass the value through when we call it, or we can just take it straight off state. It doesn't really matter. We can just take it straight off state because we already have it. If you just put a console log in there just to show that it's submit to API, and then underneath validate in the handle submit, if we call submit to API.
Then we just need to await the submit to API.
We won't need to await that. We just need to call it.
Okay.
That should resolve itself from the response from the API. But just to check that we are actually calling the submit to API correctly, when we put a valid email address in, you should see.
We just get handle submit. I need to save, otherwise this is not working. Yeah, so you get
Submit
input, handle submit, submit to API. So we're good.
Right. Now this is the final step. So now we can send the input value, which is effectively an email address, on the request body over to our Gatsby function that we wrote earlier.
Okay.
So we need to bring in Axios again.
So Axios is an XSP client. You could also use Fetch, which is in most modern browsers, but a lot of people like Axios, myself included. And
we've got Axios on the server, so it doesn't really make sense to have Fetch on the client and Axios on the server. Yep, so then, Axios .post, and this will be the address of our Gatsby function. So this will be the address
of the one we just did, and then we want to send in the email, and that is input value.
Yeah.
Then all of this should hopefully work, and if it does, we're just going to copy paste in Paul's solution, and then we can go through all the little niceties that he's added. I would say.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's going to take too long.
We are running out of time, but the rest of it is just styling and state.
Did I write apply anywhere? Is it? What did I do? What did I do? Are people still here? Are you excited in the chat? Queen@ray.codes. And we got information back that you are all signed up. Cheers.
Boom. Well done.
Woo! It's working.
All right. So copy and paste everything I did straight back in. You get the styles.
So if anybody has any questions in the chat, no code after 8, no root login after 21. I like these rules. Well, I am coding after 8 because it's now 9 o'clock in Norway. Neil is saying, I like that despite your fatigue, you all stay until the job is done. Yes. So we've shown the important parts, and now I'm going to copy paste in Paul's kind of solution from earlier, so that we can see how he has handled the kind of design part, I guess, of this challenge, because this is actually his challenge to our Gatsby Summer Functions week 1, which was collect emails from your visitors.
Yeah.
Look at that, and that is just like that. Copy and paste.
Let's see how it looks. There.
There we go.
So this is a sign up to Queen Ray's newsletter because I don't really like people or emails. So we need to change that. Queen Ray's Gatsby newsletter. She'll let you know when I have something new to share. Ah, look at that.
You're going to keep that I don't like people or emails bit?
Of course.
Okay, good.
I mean, you do you. That's you.
Yeah.
So
Okay, the only
he
thing
is lying
really...
though, because he likes all of us in the stream. So he likes some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's have a little bit of a look. So what happens if I like type something wrong? Email must be a valid email. Do Queen at Ray Codes. Submitting, you're all signed up. So this is all working lovely. So let's have a little bit of a look on your code. I see that you have done, you have the input value like we did, and then you have a set announce, which I guess has something to do with the messages, has error, has success, and then the message. And then you're doing the classic is submitting, is set is submitting.
Yeah.
So you're handling the submit, you're doing the validation. If the validation works, then we're starting the submitting process. If the error is, if the validation errors, then we are setting an announce with a message that is telling us why, like what has errored. So I guess if we do nothing,
that actually gets passed straight back from Yup's default messages. So
yeah, I saw that because Yup has really good default messages. And then we then call the submit to API. You do the same thing here. You do set announce with if it's correct or if it errors. And then you have all of your design. And then in the bottom here, you then announce if the announce has an error or it has a success, you send out the text.
Yeah. And then
if not, no.
Depending on whether it's an error or not, and success there are just colors for the text field.
Yeah.
So it's broadly what we just did. It just looks a bit fancier, and there's a new state object to handle the
messages.
That's it. Yeah.
So personally, because I had this discussion in the Gatsby Summer Functions, I have started using state names. So instead of having success and error, I would have a status field that would be submitting or pending, and then fulfilled, and then rejected or failed. Instead of having them as separate kind of state booleans, I have a state enum, where the state can only be one of several strings. And that is like a debate amongst developers, which one you like the best and for what project. But I have started liking those. I don't know what your take is on that, Paul.
Yeah, I don't, only because it gets a bit messy when you evaluate, and then you have to turn those enums. Well, you have to have enums or have them as constants. Otherwise, you've got multiple strings floating around.
Yep.
So that's
there
why
you go.
I prefer to use a Boolean, but
yeah. So there you go, folks. Like two developers not agreeing on what is the best approach. But that's the way it is, isn't it? So we got it done. And Paul has promised that he will merge this in after the stream, so you all can go and sign up for a newsletter from me about what Paul is up to.
I'm doing it now. I'm approving my own PR.
No, but you have to add in my text.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, push yours then. Push yours up and I'll approve yours. It's the same thing, isn't it?
It is. So let's do these ones. I got a new package lock, of course, because I added some things. Why did that not come in with the other one? I'm just gonna... Do you want that as a chore?
Just put it all in, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Feature. Newsletter form. Oh, but it's gonna run prettier again, isn't it? Have you tried there is another package that's like stage linting or something where it only does the linting and the styling on the files that are part of the commit.
Yeah, that would be better. I haven't, but yeah, good point. Because
I think it's called. I think it's called lint staging. Something like that.
Right.
So hands up in the chat who's still here, joining us all the way to the end. So I'm creating a pull request. Let's call it title newsletter body. I like to continue in browser. And then we do feature newsletter. And then I'm going to create a pull request. I'm going to request your review, Paul.
I see your pull request, and I am going to add to my review, and I am going to approve it.
You're not even going to wait for it to build? What if it breaks everything and your blog kind of goes downhill from now?
Well, I'm sure that the 5 visitors I get a year will be extremely disappointed with that, but I can probably work
Petter is
around it.
still here. If I remember correctly, you requested if I could do some kind of video on the the flow of GitHub, checking in and pull requests and all of that. So you got a little bit of that today, though, at least. But I will do something on that. It might not have been you, but I think I remembered that you asked me that in a stream I had. So
and I put the link on Twitter.
Cool. We got a whoop.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop. We got a yes. Cool. I also will add some links because I have the link straight through to the blog post that explains how to enable the plugin. Yeah, it was Petter who he said yes. Yeah, it will come sometime this fall, I think, a little mini series on how to do those things. Oh, it's approved. Is it live?
I am just letting it run. I'm not going to merge it in. I'm just letting Gatsby Cloud do its thing. It's
You were like, I'm going to merge it. You were all YOLO. Did I ruin your YOLO moment?
Sort of, yeah. And then I realized what are you thinking, Paul? You never do stuff like this. You're Ian spreadsheets.
And then I ended up stopping you. I'm so sorry.
I know. I sort of briefly lost my mind there by not doing everything by the book. What was I thinking?
What was you thinking? Oh, this is so much fun. Let's see if this can build. How long is it going to take to build your site?
I don't know,
long time.
Not too long. Gatsby Cloud's pretty fast, guys. Actually.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There was a question about that also here. Did you answer that?
Yeah. So Petter was saying, I got you, Paul. My problem was to reduce the number of accounts for all the different providers, but maybe Gatsby Cloud is a better option for me. Yeah, I feel you on that. I now have both Netlify and Gatsby Cloud. But for POW, my product, I've had that on Netlify for so long, so I'm probably not going to move that just because that doesn't make the product any better, right? Just moving. So, but I will be enabling Gatsby functions because I do like the style of Gatsby functions better than the Netlify style functions. So at some point I will migrate over to the Gatsby style function, but just enable that plugin. Let's see if I can find.
The only thing I'd probably maybe say to that, and I feel you as well, because a lot of my stuff was on Netlify. I actually just migrated my blog this week to Gatsby Cloud, but I've now moved enough of them over that when I deploy a Gatsby build to Netlify, I sort of forget that it takes about 3 minutes, because on Gatsby Cloud, it's 20 seconds and it's built and deployed. So I think a lot of the time the juice is worth the squeeze, and Gatsby Cloud is definitely the best place to host a Gatsby site. It's not the only place, but I think it is. I think if you've got a Gatsby
such
site,
a fanboy.
Well, I just think that they're designed to work perfectly together, so it's the better option. We all had to deploy to Netlify initially because that was really the only option. Now we have options. I think it's worth it. Like I said, I've still got stuff on Netlify. I will be probably migrating it over, but when you start seeing 5-second build times, comparing it to Netlify, even with all the special hacks there's the methods you can use on Netlify, it's still annoying when you've got a 5-minute build versus a 10-second build.
Oh, look at this. Your checks are all good.
I'm merging it in.
You are? Oh, wow.
I have merged. So
you have merged.
I have merged. So hang on, let me just see.
Did you spell check my little extra text there though? Because I didn't.
No, but I can just quickly make a change. To give it another little while, and it should be up. It's just building now. Is there any news or things for next week? What are we doing next week? Do you do that? Do you discuss that on this Friday?
Yeah, we can. So next week, the challenge for Gatsby Summer Functions is to create a function that can collect reactions. So what I'm thinking is kind of like on Dev2, you see that you can do these. Just like, let's pick something here. You can do these like unicorn reactions or hearts or bookmarks. So we're going to look at how to create these so that I cannot click on this like 10 times and give it like 10 unicorns. So how do we do that? And it could be the reactions or voting or something like kind of similar to what you've done with 500, the 500 bottles giveaway. Like the API function will be available for all. It will not have any authentication on it. But how can we try to limit and secure the function to the best of our ability so that people don't kind of start spamming our function with unicorns and hearts or votes or that sort of things. And there's some little things you can do, and we'll go through those on the Tuesday webinar, and then you will have, to decide what you want to do for your blog or for just an example, something like that.
Can I plug one of my, I think, most underrated open source projects? I've just put a link in the private chat. If you want a funky little UI to handle reactions, Benedicte, could you load that page? Sorry, this takes a long time to load. It's using an old version of Storybook, but this is a little UI mechanic that was originally created by an animator called Chris Gannon, and I transferred it to React. It uses GSAP under the hood, and it's an open source library. And you can click and drag. It works on mobile phones, and then you'll see underneath once it's.
You don't want to have this come up on your blog post.
Well, so there are on the left-hand nav. There's options for the props, so you can configure this. So you can use the Twitter icons as well if you want. Yeah. You don't have to use the default ones, and you can pass in different icons. So there's the Twitter emoji ones.
I like this.
If you click on the SVG bubbles slider story, and I think there's some props in there, so you can set the icons in the icon set. So you can determine which icons you want. So if you only want a few, or if you want all of them.
I like it. So you can do this then for your own blog next time, so that people can like give you a reaction underneath your blog.
It used to be in there. I took it out because I've been waiting for Gatsby Functions to come along. It's been in there for so long, and I nearly did it on Netlify. And then when I looked back in the code, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my bubble slider. It's in there."
Yeah, it's
but I was waiting for Gatsby Functions to come out.
That's a great then, because then you have that is already done, but then you have to like do a little bit of checks and bounds in your function so that people don't just go crazy and spam your function. So we're going to try and look at that. I mean, a public API will always be public, but there are things you can do to make sure that you are not the one that people want to mess with.
Yeah, that package is called React SVG Bubble Slider, by the way. There is a link from my blog, but I'm sure if you Google it, it will come up.
But look at that. Look at that. Is the newsletter here? Is the newsletter here?
I haven't checked. Is it deployed?
Is it?
No. It should have deployed.
Well, maybe
it says it's deployed. You might have to give it a refresh.
Your blog posts are very long.
Sorry.
But they're very good. They're very good. They're just very long. They're very thorough. This was a short one, so let's have a... Oh, look at that.
There it is.
Everyone, go sign up for Paul's newsletter, aka mine.
Will you know who's signed up from my blog and who hasn't? Can you tell that in Convert?
Yes.
Oh, you can.
So,
okay,
yeah, because you got your own form ID.
Oh, I see. Right. Great.
So everyone who signs up through your form will get your form ID, and then if they sign up through your form first, like if they haven't had any other interactions with my ConvertKit. No, I think anyway, they will get their own double opt-in. So they sign up and then there will be an email going out where I don't remember what I wrote or if I did anything to it yet, if it's the default one. But I will write something fun about how you don't like people or emails, and I will be in charge of letting them know that when you have anything new and fancy out. So if you want that link to the Smashing Magazine article when it comes out, sign up to Paul's newsletter, and I will let you know when it's out.
Thanks for the promo.
Yeah. And Peter is asking, so will then these things be stored in a database? Yes. So for next week's challenge, you will have to store these reactions somewhere. I think maybe I'm going to do mine with just Google Sheets, which I think will be good enough for my blog because I don't get that many visitors. But you can also use Fauna. You could do Firebase. You could do, anything, really.
And for next Friday, because that's potentially quite a long stream, do we need to start earlier or have a nap during the day or queue people up for it being quite long? Because we've got
I think we have to do like all the good kitchen shows do, and we had a famous lady here in Norway who she would always say, and then I've cheated a little, and then suddenly like the thing was done, and then she would continue going. Okay. So I think for next week you will put some checks in like that where I will copy paste stuff. But the important piece now this summer is the functions part. So let's focus on the functions part, and then whatever we need to do these checks on the front end, kind of like we did today, and then we'll just copy paste in whatever like niceties in the end.
Well, I think something I'm going to use my bubble slider. So quite a lot of the front end, we won't need to do anything. Just install that as a module and add it.
Lillian is playing around. She should be in bed so long ago. So everybody, now you're joining in on our like prep meeting for next week.
Yeah, sorry. What are we doing?
But, I mean, that's what we're like. We're open books over here. Do you want to do the closing, Ola, or Lillian want to do the closing? And
get Lillian to do it.
And we'll do our very awkward wave.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Stop. Legden. This has been another unauthorized and rum-fueled treasure hunt in the sharky waters around the Gatsby Islands with the pirate princess.
Woo! Well done, Lillian.
The Gatsby diving queen, Ray! And her pirate navigator, Paul.
Hello. It should be goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. And the pirate scribe, Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.